It's Wednesday night, and you know what that means. Jersey First proudly brings you a special Wednesday night edition of Real Talk. And I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, top 50 Latino via the Latino Spirit Online magazine, certainly the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, without a doubt, the people's choice and the people's voice, and of course, the most handsome face that runs the place. Yes, it's me, ladies and gentlemen, Fernando Uribe. Happy July to you all. Appreciate you tuning in here from wherever and however you may be doing so on Facebook Live, of course, via StreamYard, and of course on the Jersey First YouTube page on this very hot and steamy Wednesday. Hey, if there's ever a time to stay indoors and catch Real Talk, it's today, folks. So make sure you stay hydrated, look after your elderly neighbors, of course, look after any pets you have laying around in this heat. And of course, folks, sharing is caring. Click that share button whenever you can and let everybody know you're enjoying Real Talk on this Wednesday evening edition. Folks, always remember, hey, listen, Real Talk along with Jersey First continues to be that sort of really standard of journalism as we know it in the Garden State. Of course, folks, make sure that you like us on Facebook and, of course, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Don't forget to subscribe to the Jersey First YouTube page, as well as wherever you get your podcasts on SoundCloud or Spotify. Hey, whether you're driving down the shore, doing errands, of course, trying to stay hydrated, maybe visiting in-laws, hitting the gym, whatever it is you're doing, folks, download Jersey First from a PC Max, smartphone, or tablet, and take Jersey First with you anywhere at any time all summer long. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I cannot say enough about the dream team of Garden State Media. Yes, folks, it is Jersey First TV. Of course, brand new episodes of the Nader Narrative, hosted by the incredible Elizabeth Nader, premiere every Thursday night via jerseyfirst.org/TV. And of course, brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap with AJ Malilo and Stephen Rimbolo also premiere on Thursdays, once again via jerseyfirst.org/TV. And of course, live on Monday nights in their regularly scheduled slots. Of course, you can check out brand new episodes of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe right here on Jersey First TV. Folks, you know, I'll have a lot to say later in the show, of course, about a couple of things. You know, listen, traffic continues to be very strong. Obviously, in the month of June, 11,000 all organic views and counting. Of course, I'll have a little bit to say about that. And of course, during my final thoughts, I'm going to have a lot to say about David Cruz, Tom Moran, and Matt Freeman, especially during this budget season where it seems like a lot of their outrage, as usual, tends to be quite misplaced. But folks, of course, before we get to all of that good stuff, hey, part of the reason the show continues to do well is not just because of you, ladies and gentlemen, my loyal viewing audience, but more importantly, it is the caliber of guests that I have on every single week, month after month, year after year on this program. And of course, this week is no exception, folks. When we talk about the pinnacle of New Jersey journalism, yes, he's the editor of the perennial news site here in the Garden State, the New Jersey Globe, which you can check out at www.newjerseyglobe.com. Folks, it's their editor. And thankfully for me, he's a fan of the show. The great David Wildstein joins us here on Real Talk. David, how are you?
Hey, Fernando, how are you? Thanks for having me on again.
I appreciate it. And how was your 4th, by the way?
It was very nice. It was really nice. And hope you did well. Hope you did well in the heat up in New Jersey. So.
Well, let me tell you, it's about 90 degrees up here, man. Down by you, I don't know how bad it is, but it's toasty here in New Jersey, my man.
Yeah, it is. Well, I live in South Jersey, as they call it. So
there you go. Absolutely, absolutely. So, David, let's get right to it here. Good column you broke recently. Again, folks, when it comes to breaking news, nobody does it better than the Jersey Globe and David Wildstein. Joe Signorello, who, by the way, folks, special programming note it on your calendars. Just booked him today. He'll be my guest live on Monday night, September 11th at 7:05 p.m. here on Real Talk. I'm sure he'll have a lot to say. But, David, you broke the story last week, and apparently maybe an announcement's coming any day now that he'll be withdrawing his candidacy for the United States Senate seat currently held by the senior United States Senator Robert Menendez in 2024. And subsequently, he will be pursuing the congressional seat in CD7 currently held by a freshman incumbent U.S. Representative Tom Kean Jr., which could be a little bit of an inconvenience for Sue Altman, who's already announced her candidacy. How do you see this race?
Well, this is not just the most competitive congressional race in New Jersey. It will be probably the only competitive race in New Jersey. Wow. But and that's what happens when you have can I use the G word on your show? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
So when you have a gerrymandered map that has no, that was set up to protect a bunch of incumbents, it's not surprising we're going to have a decade of very few competitive races. The 7th is different. The 7th is a swing district. It's one of the races that both parties say nationally is a race to watch. Control of the House of Representatives, whether it's Kevin McCarthy or whether it's a Democratic speaker, it could come down to whether Tom Kean Jr. wins re-election or not. That's a close district, and it had been in 2020. Joe Biden won that district by 10 points. Yeah. Redistricting the new map brought it down to a Biden +4 district. So lots going to depend upon the presidential race. A lot's going to depend upon how well Congressman Kean does and how this primary goes. And I know you agree with me. We've talked about this. Primaries are good. I don't like it when everybody sort of sets it up and clears the way for one candidate. It's good to have competitive primaries. And I don't know if this field is closed to just Sue Altman and Joe Signorello. There's a gentleman named Jason Blazakis who spent 10 years as a counterterrorism expert at the U.S. Department of State under Republican and Democratic presidents. He's thinking of coming back to Warren County to run for this seat. A lot of time still left, yet then again, not so much, because it costs millions of dollars to run for Congress. And if somebody's not in place this summer starting to raise money, it may be too late. So we'll see some finality on the Democratic field.
Speaking about raising money, I know, again, another good story you broke last week as well is Sue Altman, the first openly declared Democrat candidate right now in that primary in CD7, where she's raised a lot of money. And David, again, I'm going to be careful how I say this, because a lot of what I say gets taken out of context by haters on this program, as I'm sure it happens to you.
It does.
Yeah. I know Sue personally. She's a nice lady. I've interviewed her on other podcasts of mine. It's interesting because it's almost making me wonder, who's putting this money down? And as you say, hey, starting to raise money early is crucial in a race like this. And she's doing that. But it also makes me wonder who's coming out of their pockets to support someone like Sue Altman, who, let's be fair, yes, she's a Democrat, but there's a lot to attack her on. And we know, obviously there are people in the Norcross camp who can't help themselves on Twitter, we all know, and others who seem to look at Sue Altman as an easy target for someone that's very left-leaning. And I'm not saying that CD7 is as red as my jacket, but I don't know about subscribing to a lot of the woke, progressive stuff that Sue Altman seems to subscribe to, which I don't know if it resonates in that district, though, David.
I think she's a good candidate. I think she's a better candidate than some people are giving her credit for. She is a worker. I don't think anybody's going to outwork Sue. And she raised $200,000 in 4 weeks, which is pretty impressive. Candidates come from different places and different times. And Sue grew up in this district. I think she's going to be interesting to watch. And whether she's, she is a liberal Democrat, and she doesn't hide from that. But Tom Kean, the Republicans, the National Republican Congressional Committee, the Congressional Leadership Fund, they're going to spend millions of dollars to define whoever it is. I would submit to you that if somehow Democrats nominated Fernando Uribe as their candidate for Congress and Republicans want to hold this seat, they're going to spend millions of dollars to say that you're too liberal for the district. And if you don't have the money to combat that, then people are going to get polled, and they're going to say, yeah, I've heard about this Fernando guy. He's really left wing. So my point is, they're going to tag Sue with being to the left anyway. Joe Signorello is a liberal Democrat. Tom Malinowski had no record. I think he turned out to be a progressive Democrat and nearly held that seat.
Now, David, when we look at Joe Signorello again, I mean, this is a guy who came out very openly criticizing the senior United States Senator Robert Menendez. And I know the senator has his own problems right now, which we'll get to later. But it seems that obviously he may be looking at this race in CD7 as a more realistic one for him, maybe in the sense of raising money. Because people I talk to, listen, and I know you got bigger ears than I do. People I talk to were saying, like, hey, listen, there are just a lot of Democrats statewide that probably would support Joe, but they wouldn't dare come out publicly or even donate a nickel because that's traceable. And I think that we all know how, Senator Menendez can be in the sense of not liking maybe people behind his back within the party, trying to go for a seat. We all know, obviously, that famous speech on the steps of the federal courthouse in Newark some years back in 2017. I just hear that I think a lot of Democrats would say maybe, hey, listen, I wouldn't mind supporting someone like Joe or someone running a primary against Bob, but I also don't want my dollars being traced back to me either. I think it's sort of like a double-edged sword here for Joe, and I think maybe he felt it was safer to go for this race.
Well, I think you're right. I think Mayor Signorello probably looked at it and said more likely that he can win a Democratic primary in the 7th and beat Tom Kean Jr. in this district than it would for him to become a United States senator. Look, I mean, is it better if you have a choice? You'd say to somebody, well, you can have a congressional seat or you can have a U.S. Senate seat, your choice. Most people would take the Senate seat. So I think Joe made a very calculated, probably correct move to say that it moving up to the House is more likely. He didn't have great fundraising. A great first quarter in fundraising, and look, beating a sitting U.S. senator in a primary isn't easy. It's only happened once in New Jersey. That was in 1978, and it was a conservative Republican who had worked on Ronald Reagan's first presidential campaign, had an enormous network nationally, and was able to compete against an older incumbent that really didn't take the race seriously. So, we're talking about uncharted waters here. I think Signorello made the right call.
I'm with you for sure. And it'll be interesting to see exactly how he does fundraising wise, to your point, as obviously those quarter numbers have to be, reported to ELEC. But do you think someone like Joe Signorello, again, a progressive, a millennial, obviously someone who's worked in the private sector, a guy who understands, I think, issues that sort of resonate with millennial voters. We know that that's a voter block that's growing exponentially, though, David. Do you think they might cancel each other out, or does Sue just have that sort of overwhelming head start because of fundraising?
Well, she's got a month's head start, but we still have to. You generously allowed me to use the G word. I don't want to push the envelope too much with you. The L word is lines, and lines do matter in New Jersey, and a lot will depend upon who's able to win these conventions. On the Democratic side in the 7th district, it's a fairly competitive process, and you're talking about conventions in Hunterdon, in Warren County, in Morris County. If you're going to be a Democrat in some of the most conservative parts in New Jersey, then you're probably a liberal Democrat. You're not a moderate deciding to really not have your votes cast at the count at the local level. So I don't know. I think Sue Altman versus Joe Signorello at county conventions in Somerset. I think these are winnable races for both of them.
David, Tom Malinowski already announced he will not be seeking re-election in the district. He could always change his mind. There's plenty of time left. Are you hearing anything that maybe Tom is reconsidering going for his old seat again?
No, I don't think he is at all. I think he is moving on. There's speculation that he might be looking for a return to the State Department in the Biden administration. I've spoken to him a few times. He seems to have made peace with where his life is right now. And, you and I have both seen this over the years. There's some people who lose and they never, ever come to terms with their loss. I think Malinowski is in the camp of, that was a great 4 years and I'm on to the next adventure of my life.
Oh, absolutely. David, obviously you mentioned, Tom Kaine's victory last year. Certainly, obviously after that district being gerrymandered, I can say this, so yeah, it's okay, right? Obviously it helped Tom Kaine win a very narrow victory, but one of the things that really upset me is that there were other, as you mentioned right now, it might be the most competitive House race in New Jersey coming up in 2024. Could we see a repeat maybe where even back in like CD3, and I think it was CD11, where, let's be fair, I mean, I go after the NJGOP all the time. Bob Healy could have won that race. I don't want to play Monday morning quarterback or Paul DeGroot up in CD11 against Mikey Sherrill. It just seems like if the NJGOP just put more time and resources into those two races, they could have flipped those seats. They look competitive. Do you think the NJGOP maybe learned its lesson and might run, I hate to use the word better candidates, but might be a little more savvy about who they run against when it comes to Mikey Sherrill, let's say Andy Kim, who arguably probably were the more vulnerable Democrats in the previous midterm?
I was one of the ones who thought that Healy was in that race, probably believed it was a little closer. Obviously, never imagined that it was going to be 10 points. I think Bob Healy was a good candidate. I think Republicans put one of their best campaign managers in the state into that district. He had the same consultants that have helped conservative Republicans win governor's races and U.S. Senate races and House races all over the country. It was the guy who did Donald Trump's TV ads. So I think he ran a good campaign. I think those numbers just weren't there. Burlington County has become very blue. Healy won Western Monmouth, and then you get into those Mercer County towns. Those are solidly Democratic counties.
Yeah,
and it's to Kim's credit, he worked hard. He didn't take his foot on the gas for his first 4 years in Congress. I still don't think he is. So I don't think it was the state party. The good county organizations down that way that were backing Healy, and I think he was a good candidate. When we talk about primaries being good, that wasn't an easy primary against Ian Smith, and at least it taught a newcomer how to be a candidate. And I tell this story, Fernando, a lot. I talk about the former governor of New Jersey, whose name I hate to mention, but Chris Christie said that if it wasn't for a challenge from the right, from Steve Lonigan in 2009, he would not have beaten John Corzine. That having a primary that made him scared enough to take it seriously taught him to be a better candidate. It helped him get himself, into a position where he could fight a competitive general. So sometimes these primaries help people. It's why you go to spring training before the baseball seasons.
That's right. And it gets you battle tested. Absolutely.
It does.
If you're just joining us right now, it's 7:20 here on the East Coast, and a special Wednesday night edition of Real Talk. My guest tonight is the distinguished editor of the New Jersey Globe, David Wildstein, join us here on Real Talk. David, we'll get back to 2024 in a moment, but let's talk about 2025 here. And last Wednesday, I was fortunate enough to attend a mixer / fundraiser for Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop at Surf City. For anybody that lives in North Jersey, especially with this nice weather, if you're looking to do something fun outside right by the Hudson River, and have a few drinks, go to Surf City in downtown Jersey City. And I ended up going there. I know you published a story today that the Fulop Super PAC has approximately $6.5 million in the bank. I mean, Steve is raising money. It seems like he has a fundraiser every other week. He's raising money. He's getting key endorsements around the state. And let me be very clear, because some people might take this as like, well, there's still heat between Steve and I. No, I like Steve personally. I think there might be some things politically he and I will disagree with. But I think Steve, listen, he got off to a fast start. He announced first. He's been going around the state, as I mentioned, getting key endorsements from other mayors. We'll find out again where State Democratic Committee Chair Leroy Jones, where he stands. I think there's still a lot of time, per se, about where his allegiances lie. But, as I walked around, I saw a lot of Jersey City people, not a lot of county people, in sort of the county machine. And it was interesting because Steve had said two things that really caught my eye. Number one, he reminded everybody that 10 years ago when he ran against the establishment, David, in Hudson County in 2013. And I remember I was the only journalist at the time interviewing Stephen regularly. Nobody else, the Jersey Journal wasn't talking to him. Hudson Reporter, again, God rest in peace, Hudson Reporter. But at one time, Hudson Reporter was a very viable site.
It was.
They weren't giving Steve any press. I was the only journalist talking to Steve regularly. And it was interesting because he made a point to remind people, hey, I'm the guy that ran against the establishment and we won because of our ideas and policies. And then secondly, he also reminded the crowd that he wants to run a very policy-oriented campaign. I'm hearing, at least from some people, David, my concern is that I don't want a third Murphy term. We'll get to the budget in a moment where it just got more inflated. But I think Steve would be wise to run maybe to the right of Murphy, maybe more into the middle, stay center left. Because, again, I just don't think that Steve's a smart guy politically. I think he sees the tea leaves. To be a third Murphy term, I think, would spell disaster for Steve. But maybe I'm wrong. How do we see this race so far?
I don't, Mayor Fulop took an enormous risk by getting in this early. Usually people aren't in as early as he is. And remember, this is a publicly financed race. If he opts for public financing, and I imagine he will, everything he spends counts against a cap on what he can spend to win that nomination. We don't know who the other candidates are. So far, though, he's taking advantage of being the only guy out there. He's gotten 9 mayors. He's got 2 county chairs. He's got, some Teamsters Union locals. He's got transit workers, and we don't know who he's going to be running against. It could be a big field. It could be it could be a 2-person race. We don't know yet. In terms of winning this primary, he's staking some ground, and he's probably looking at potential rivals, whether it's Josh Gottheimer or Mikey Sherrill, who are not necessarily going to capture the left wing of the party. They've been more centrist in Congress. Republicans don't think they're centrist at all, but to Democrats, these labels are in the eye of the beholder, right? And he's got to get through a Democratic primary. Right now, he's talking about some interesting issues that don't get a lot of attention, like transit issues, public transportation, and mobility. He's not had to take positions that, in my view, are putting him one way or the other, and there's still a lot of time for that.
David, it's interesting you bring up transit because I know that obviously it's the summer months, and where I live up here in Hudson County, I mean, I walk 2 blocks and I look at Manhattan.
Yeah.
And I walk 2 blocks another direction and there's a light rail station. I can get to Hoboken in 10 minutes, either catch a PATH train or train into Manhattan, or I can catch a train down the shore. I mean, I'm spoiled where I live, but unfortunately for everybody else in New Jersey, if you live west of me or south of me, that's not the case. And there isn't an abundance of trains. There isn't an abundance of service that I think New Jerseyans can enjoy to get around the state. Again, I also have a car, but the idea that I can take a train anywhere, I mean, I have that advantage. You live in Western Bergen County, though, David, or Morris County, Sussex, even Mercer, Middlesex, even down the shore, getting around is difficult. And I just think it's really funny that come election season, we always hear about New Jersey Transit. We always hear about, well, what can we do to make New Jersey Transit better? Again, I don't think it's a political story per se. I just think it becomes a bureaucratic cluster blank. I don't want to use that word. I think it's a family show. But it just seems it becomes a political cluster blank when it comes to addressing New Jersey Transit. We keep putting money into it, but we're not seeing new tracks being laid down. We're not seeing extension of services, more regularly, I guess, efficient train schedule. I don't know. Listen, I don't claim to have all the answers, but it's really frustrating because I know people around the state want to see some improvements in New Jersey Transit, but they're not coming soon enough, David. Is that fair to say?
I think it is. And I think it could be more than just New Jersey Transit. I mean, I'm much older than you, so I remember, working in Trenton in the 80s. There was an assemblyman, then a senator, then Senator Bob Littell from Sussex County. He spent years working on a project to build a monorail which effectively would have run down the middle of Route 80 to try and make Western New Jersey more accessible for public transportation. And if you want to look at what happened to New Jersey from being a swing state to being more of a blue state where a lot of things have to go right for Republicans to win, take a look at the New Jersey Transit rail map and look at the train station towns. And some of those towns, I mean, and this goes back to 70s and 80s, early 90s for me. Ridgewood, Summit, Westfield, Maplewood. These weren't just swing towns. These were rock solid Republican towns. Republicans were winning Milburn, but with 60-70% of the vote. And now it's swung in the opposite direction. Now that Maplewood, South Orange, Milburn group of towns produces as many votes for Democrats as Newark does.
Yeah.
So, you're talking about a monumental shift in train station towns. What used to be Republicans who commuted to New York, these are now Democrats commuting to New York. And that has changed the state in a tremendous way.
It certainly has. It really, really has. And I'm glad you broke down those specific train stops, because those are townships that, again, we would look at, middle class, blue class, working class people that normally would gravitate towards Republicans. And that hasn't been the case. And Democrats have done a good job, again, in registering voters, getting the vote out, as they say, everything we expect mobilization wise when it comes to election time.
Right.
I think Democrats have gotten better at it. Speaking about elections, and again, another great story you broke over the weekend. It seems like a little turmoil in Morris County, though, David.
Yeah.
It seems like the county chair, Laura Ali, seems to be trying to set up, I guess, an election or convention this coming weekend, which, again, in announcing over the holiday weekend, doesn't give a lot of time for opposition to sort of mobilize and try to maybe get some opposition ready. Why so? I mean, why the urgency again a year early when we know that in 2024 again all the House seats will be up for grabs, a U.S. Senate seat will be up for grabs, and the presidency will be up for grabs. But why? What are you hearing about why the urgency in Morris County to get this sort of convention up and coming this weekend?
Well, I think a lot of this stems from what happened in 2020 during the pandemic when county committee races were canceled. These are the long-term consequences of what happens when you just cancel an election. And for me, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican or liberal or conservative. Elections should never be canceled. They should never look for an excuse. No matter what it is. And the only time I remember an election being canceled was a mayoral primary in New York City on September 11th, 2001. Yeah. And that might be the acceptable exception to that. But they canceled county committee races all across New Jersey. By the way, not everybody, not all Democrats and all Republicans canceled them, but most did. And that knocked the sequence of county chair elections out of whack. And so, I look at it a little differently. I see what Laura Ali is doing in Morris is she's resetting this calendar. She's been having people griping at her from the sidelines saying, well, you were supposed to be up this year and you're trying to use COVID to keep one more year, tack one more year onto your term. And, I got the impression reading her email that she said, you know what, I don't want to spend another year of people telling me on process issues, you should have had an election and you skipped your election. So she's saying, I could have stayed for an extra year. Now I'm running, and these elections aren't impossible to put together. People have been thinking about challenging her, and good for her to keep this going. And a lot we'll see tomorrow night in Parsippany. There's a race for municipal chair, and is one of the reasons I love politics, is that we can go from discussing a race for the United States Senate or for governor or for president effortlessly to discussing a race for municipal chairman in an important town. Parsippany used to be so incredibly Republican, but they have been fighting there since. And I'll say it so that I'm clear, so people don't think they've misheard me. This fight has been going on since 1965.
Wow.
And these factions have followed these lines. They have been fighting for so long that most of that time that town's had a Democratic mayor. And it's because of the infighting. And at some point, I mean, this should not be 100-year war in Parsippany.
No, you're absolutely right. And speaking of Parsippany, though, David, I know you're very busy, but last week, coincidentally, I interviewed Parsippany Councilman Justin Musella on the show. If you haven't caught that episode, do catch it. I think you'll find it very interesting with him. David, moving on to really, I think, sort of the big issue over last weekend as we headed into the holiday weekend. For our audience, maybe isn't aware, under state law, by June 30th, if the state budget is not signed by 11:59 p.m., subsequently, the state would enter into a shutdown. We've seen that in 2006 under Governor Corzine, and we saw it in 2017 under then Governor Chris Christie. Obviously, it seemed like it reminded me about grad school, though, David. Trying to get that term paper in right before the deadline, but right before my professor was like, Uribe, are you getting this paper in? And I'm like, I'll get it to you. It seemed like that's what the budget looked like last week. And before we sort of delve into some specifics here, David, if there's ever a piece of red meat that legislative candidates, especially in winnable districts in Central and South Jersey this year, it's just looking at this budget, though, David, and how inflated it is. It's obviously a good amount of millions of dollars over what Governor Murphy introduced early in the year. Again, I think the leadership, whether it's Scutari and or Coughlin collectively, I mean, you're giving Republicans the opportunity to run races that they can maybe win legislatively. Not up here by me. Up here it's as blue as Windex. But in Central and South Jersey, there's a lot of winnable seats that if Republicans are smart, they look at this budget, though, David, and will just cry like, what is going on here in Trenton? This budget's out of control.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack with this budget. First of all, process. And again, and I say it, whether you're Democrat or Republican or whether you're a conservative, you're a liberal, the process, the lack of transparency was yet again stunning. And we have seen this movie before. I wasn't expecting a shutdown. I thought this would go according to the normal template of a script, which is, the budget gets introduced and then there's a twist and then there's another twist and then there's a crisis and then everybody lives happily ever after. The reason this budget came in right down to the last day, my understanding is it wasn't because Governor Murphy and the Democratic leadership in the legislature were fighting over anything. This was an issue of the to an extent, the nonpartisan Office on Legislative Services couldn't produce the document accurately. And it is troubling to me. It should be troubling to everybody, whether you like the budget or you don't like the budget, that these budgets don't get published in advance, that not only don't the public get to see that budget and review it and learn more about it, but legislators are voting on a document that they really haven't seen. And process-wise, that's a problem. You have some very well-intentioned budget experts, Paul Sarlo, the chairman of the Senate committee, Eliana Pinter-Marine in the Assembly. I mean, they give it their all, and then it gets into these traps where it comes out and numbers aren't right. The other thing, Fernando, that really, really bothers me is how little the public knows about the budget and cares about the budget. And there was a poll, I think you and I have spoken about it before, came out from Fairleigh Dickinson University, said it was 53% of New Jerseyans said they knew absolutely nothing about the budget. And another 20% said that they only know a little bit. And you and I, we've both been around the block. We know, that 53%, people say they don't know anything. They don't know anything. The 20% who said they know a little bit, that's because they don't want to say to the pollster, yeah, I don't know anything about that. So you're talking about, numbers that are way too high of a majority of New Jerseyans who haven't followed it, that don't know it. And guess what? It's not your fault. I don't think it's my fault. I think these daily newspapers that are supposed to be covering the budget every day and making the public informed, they're just not getting the eyeballs that they used to. And so the public doesn't know. So is there going to be outrage over expenditures on this budget? I don't think so, because I don't think the public knows about it or cares about it. Now it's going to cost candidates millions of dollars to tell people what's wrong. They have to explain to people that the budget's that there are issues with the budget that they should care about. And that should have happened before the start of the campaign. People shouldn't have to spend their campaign dollars, no matter what party they're on, educating people on something that they should already know about.
And it's interesting, though, David, because for the last 72 hours, what I find rich, and I'm going to talk about it during my final thoughts, is this sort of manufactured outrage from journalists like Tom Moran and David Cruz and Matt Friedman, the Lollipop Guild, as I like to refer to them, now being concerned about transparency and now being concerned about, well, why wasn't this discussed? To your point, well, they're not doing their jobs. These are guys that seem to have an opinion on everything, David. And when it comes to reporting on this, they should be doing it a lot sooner or raising more of a stink. And now doing it now just seems like, I don't know, it's like it can't take it seriously, David.
Look, I mean, it's okay for people to disagree. I agree with you 67% of the time on what you just said. I agree on Moran. I agree on Cruz. I am an unabashed Friedman fan, and I always have been, and I always will be. So so we'll have to agree to disagree on that one journalist. But I could give you substitutions if you needed, of people that
please go ahead. Yeah,
they come in. But the reality is, I mean, David Cruz in that budget was $1 million in a subsidy, a taxpayer funded subsidy for New Jersey public television. I can tell you the New Jersey Globe receives 0 taxpayer subsidies. I think New Jersey First and Real Time with Fernando Uribe, my guess, unless you want to break some news here tonight, my guess is you are also at 0.
Correct.
The taxpayers are not helping you out.
Jersey First gets 0 subsidies by taxpayers, that's for sure.
And I'll tell you, one of the things, and it just, I won't even say I'm angry about it. I looked at it and I laughed. Prior to the weekend prior to the budget being passed was the final David Cruz show of the season before he went on his summer schedule. I didn't know the news had summer schedules. I'm working through the summer. I've seen, I know your lineup. You don't shut down.
David, I'm working. I mean, David Cruz, I don't know what the hell he's doing all summer. It's not watching his New York Mets. I would hope not. I mean, what's he doing all summer?
And then it's troubling. I mean, he's getting money from taxpayers, and then he's taking the summer off. I didn't know you got summers off in this business, but that's between him and his network. He luckily doesn't work for me. Tom Moran, I mean, the problem with Moran is he's never actually had to run something in the real world. So he doesn't know how things work, and he thinks that he knows everything. And so when Tom Moran says something's a good idea or a bad idea, maybe sometimes he's right, but it's not because he understands it. It's because he just gets lucky and arbitrarily picked the right side. These are problems. The good news for people in New Jersey who disagree with him is that nobody really cares what Tom Moran has to say.
That's right.
So big deal. So, he is the proverbial tree falling in the woods. So what if Tom Moran doesn't say anything? And I'll tell you, again, I'm older than you, so I will, I'll play my age card. But there was a point in time, and it wasn't even all that long ago, just a decade and a half or so. If the Star Ledger editorial board came out as fervently against some of these proposals as they did now, legislators would be their sphincters would be tightening. They'd be crawling under their desks. They'd be scared. They'd be losing some control of multiple bodily functions, because the largest newspaper in the state was about to skewer them on their vote. It might have actually affected how they voted. Now they don't care. They don't care that the Star Ledger's for it or against it or whatever. And that all gets to the point of why a majority of New Jerseyans don't know anything about the budget. It comes from the fact that at least try and report the facts, but don't do what Moran does, because that's what's killing these newspapers.
No, I'm with you. Again, whether it's Cruz and others, it's just, it's too little too late for me to all of a sudden now have this manufactured outrage about, well, the budget. You should have been covering this for months and trying to hold legislators more accountable, or at least trying to get them to be a little more specific and transparent. Now after the fact, now after it's signed, it's 4th of July. We're going about our business. We're going about the summer. I mean, David, people in New Jersey, maybe anywhere really, get very, they're worried about the summer. They want to go on that summer vacation. Whether or not they can afford it, I don't know in this climate. Yeah. Economically, we'll see. But it's really disheartening because, again, I don't take off the summer. Neither do you.
No, I don't.
I've never heard of the news taking a break here. This isn't the NFL where there's an off season, okay? Like politics, there's no off season in the politics. It's a 12-month a year season, as they say. So it's kind of disappointing, especially when you're telling us that, for example, NJTV or NJPBS or whatever gets subsidies.
Well, they get subsidies, and it's David Cruz's show. He's taking the summer off. I guess coming in and taping a show once a week is just too hard, too taxing on him.
You know what? It's exhausting. My God, when you're riding your bicycle from Jersey City, jumping on the train, it must be exhausting. David, before I let you go, another good story you broke a couple of days ago, also, and one that's I think very concerning. I think it sort of reminds us about the dangers of smartphones and the social media.
Yeah,
you did break a story about Judge Gary Wilcox, Superior Court judge, who apparently. Kudos to you reporting on this specificity here. First of all, I stay off of TikTok. I don't like that Chinese government apparatus by any means. So I stay off of TikTok. But 40 TikTok videos, some in his judicial robes, in his court chambers, or partly undressed in his bed, Jesus, containing profanity, graphic sexual references to female and male body parts, violence, misogyny, racist terms under the pseudonym Sal Tortorella. It seems to be, he recorded, for example, a TikTok video wearing a Beavis and Butthead t-shirt while walking through the Bergen County Courthouse with Get Down by Nas. Good song by Nas, a good hip-hop song from the 2000s. According to a former complaint lodged by the Advisory Committee on Judicial Conduct, in a time when we're in a judge shortage in New Jersey, do we have to give the public more ammunition about, my God, let's not just rush anybody to the bench?
Well, first of all, I do want to say I may have published this story first, but it came off of the ACJC investigations. I don't want to take credit for any investigative journalism on that. Everybody else had a fair shot at it, but this is a Superior Court judge making weird videos, while wearing, in some cases, his judicial robe in his court chambers. And anybody else, we'd be talking about resignation here. If it was a zoning board member or a mayor or a legislator, this is really, really troubling to me. And he deserves a presumption of innocence.
Sure.
Although it's going to be very hard given the fact that it's his video there. He can't really say he got hacked, unless he wants to play the AI card or something, but I don't think that's going to work. What concerns me, among many things, is he's a criminal court judge, and his job in a lot of cases is to determine whether people lose their freedom or not. And this is not acting in the way that you expect a judge to act. This is really, really strange. And I just hope it doesn't take them a year or a year and a half to wrap this up. But something something needs to be done about this, whether it's a judge shortage or not. He's got to be accountable, and judges ought to be held to a higher standard, especially. And by the way, that's the line that you hear people who have a different ideology than you have talking about the U.S. Supreme Court, that they need to be put up on a pedestal. They need to go out of their way to not, to live a perfect life. And none of us live perfect lives, but if anybody needs to, it's a judge. And this story has gone viral. It's gone international because it's just weird. I mean, this is a guy, he's a Harvard Law School graduate. He's a former federal prosecutor. This isn't a rube. This is a guy who has got to know that what he did could get him in trouble. And I spoke to him very briefly on his cell phone on Friday. He didn't want to talk. I don't blame him. He shouldn't talk to me. But I would love to ask, what were you thinking, man? I mean, what was going through your head that you're recording a video and you think that's okay? I'll tell you something that I have not yet written, and that is, I was told today, personnel at the Bergen County Courthouse have known about this for months. That's how long it's taken for just the story to get out.
David, you talk to everybody. I aspire to have your SIM card on your phone. I aspire to that. I mean, you talk to everybody, man. You can get in touch with people. I mean, my God, amazing. Real quick before I let you go, another story involving a judge. I know a story you published at the end of last week. Story that caught my attention. He's a buddy of mine. Jamel Holly, apparently the Township of Roselle mayoral primary was decided by 76 votes. You did report, the first person to report, the judge will decide if Holly gets a recount within the next week. Obviously, Holly is claiming irregularities, again, according to the story you published, suggesting a 175 vote discrepancy in the total. Superior Court Judge Mark Ciaroca will be issuing a ruling before the end of this week. What are you hearing, David, about this case?
This is maybe Assemblyman Holly is taking him a little bit longer than it should to recognize these votes aren't there. This is a Hail Mary going to court to get the recount. But I'll, from my standpoint, for whatever it's worth, which isn't all that much, in this case, so you recount the votes. So what? Let's make sure that everybody feels comfortable with the outcome of this election. It doesn't take long to count Roselle. It's not a big place. It wouldn't be the most terrible thing. I'll tell you something that I have been doing since last year is I've been writing judges hearing election matters, asking them to live stream the proceedings so that the public can know that this election was done fairly, that nothing was rigged. And I don't, and remember this, the judiciary spent a lot of money putting cameras and microphones in every courtroom during COVID so that everything could be live streamed and people could do this from home. The technology hasn't gone away. And to me, and I'll say this, I probably said this too many times this evening, Fernando, so thank you for indulging me, but this isn't a left or right, liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican, red, blue. This is just put these matters up on a live stream. I wrote in one of the letters to the judge, and I apologize if it sounds too melodramatic, but there was a time in our nation's history where circuit court judges rode by horseback from town to town so the trials can be held and the members of the public can be there to observe. And luckily, we're not a horseback-driven society now. Now we have cameras and microphones and the internet. And I just don't buy the idea that, well, the courtroom's open, and if you want to come watch, you could come down and watch. Why should somebody have to take a half a day or a day off of work, lose a day's pay to go to a courthouse when they can live stream it and allow anybody to watch at any time? And I'm not one of the people who thinks that New Jersey elections are stolen or rigged. There's bad actors from time to time, but for the most part, everything runs fine. So what do you have to hide? Just let the public hear what's being said. Let it be broadcast. And I wish judges were not. I wish they would be a little bit more cognizant of the need to be transparent, open up their courtrooms.
That's a great word, transparency. I think you nailed it right there perfectly about, hey, listen, we're investing all this money in transparency in our court systems, making it accessible. Hey, you don't, like you mentioned, you don't have to take a day off of work. You could be at your job on your smartphone,
right?
AirPod in, and that's it. And you can
watch it later in the evening,
sure,
or the next couple of days, just like they do with your show. You've got a lot of people who are watching it live, and you're going to have a lot of people that will watch it, over the next few days. That's the way television is these days.
Yeah. Right.
And judges should be, they should just stop hiding sometimes as much as they do, because they don't need to. You've got a lot of good judges in this state. Let the public see them, and just move this out into the open. I think it would be a lot better.
Absolutely. David, before I let you go, obviously, November will be here before you know it. It's the summer months. I think people maybe sort of look at politics in the rearview mirror right now. They want to get down the shore, maybe go check out food truck festivals, which I love, or just going to Atlantic City, going to Manhattan, wherever, just traveling in general during the summer months. And it seems that, people forget about politics in New Jersey, but what should residents keep their eye on even during the summer in New Jersey? Again, we have election day coming up in November. A lot of competitive legislative races, which we've talked about on this show in previous episodes. But what should New Jersey residents keep an eye out for during the summer months here?
I think they should watch for whether they see and hear and are touched by the candidates running for office. I remember, it's an old line. I don't even remember who said it, but there was a guy and he won an election, and he lost an election, and he noticed that his good friend didn't vote. And he said, well, why didn't you vote? And he said, you never asked me. And we're talking about a time where voters probably need to be more self-aware of the campaigns that are going on, and maybe do a little bit more digging. I think they want to see if people ring their doorbell, or whether they get something in the mail, or whether they get an email or a text message or a phone call, or whether they're walking out of a supermarket and some candidate for a local office is standing there, handing out their literature. As we head into presidential primaries that are, not that long away. People are going to be voting in the presidential race in another 6-7 months. And, we're talking about, New Hampshire for the Republicans. People in New Hampshire expect to meet all the candidates for president and then make a decision. And so that's what I really, I don't know if it's realistic or not, but that's what I wish people would look for in New Jersey is, have I ever met this candidate? Have they asked for my vote? And candidates should recognize that too. Don't take the summer off. Go work hard, because you can't make this time up.
I agree. David, real quick, I just looked at my notes here and I missed this one part. It is the summer. Any traction you're hearing? I know your sources are amazing when it comes to U.S. Senator Robert Menendez. Anything that you're hearing? I'm not hearing anything right now. Is it?
No, I'm not either.
Okay.
I'm not either. And look, unfortunately, it's no secret. I've got more experience with federal investigations than I wish I had. And these things move at a very slow, methodical pace. We don't know what's going to happen. There's, and it's hard when this is going on, because you don't know, and all you get is a lot of speculation. This could be a lot of nothing. It could, and not just with the Senate race, with any of these investigations going on. The time that it takes, that it just breeds a lot of rumors and everything. There's got to be some finality to it by the winter, because that's when screening committees and county conventions and organization lines are awarded. And I think we just have to be patient and wait and see.
I'm with you. I'm hearing the same thing, but I fear, obviously with your excellent sources, you might be able to one up me here and get that. Dave, before I let you go, you're always a gentleman. I appreciate the time you take to come on this program. And
I appreciate your show and what you do also. This is so valuable, what you're doing every day, and giving people a chance to hear candidates and issues. And you get with the exception of me, you get a lot of really good guests to come on. Just please keep up what you're doing too, because it's so incredibly helpful to the process.
Oh, David, you're so kind. Again, I appreciate you taking the time. You're very busy. You're breaking news. It seems like every second of the day. I don't think you sleep. I think you're like Batman. I'm just convinced that
sleep's overrated, Fernando. It really is.
Well, listen, I mean, I think sleep sometimes is a little important, especially during these hot days. You want to stay indoors, right, with a nice AC blast.
David Cruz will sleep enough for both of us. How's that?
Oh, God, and then some, please. But, David, before I let you go, again, I want to thank you for your time. What should we look forward to, again, in the next week or two or a few weeks coming up with the New Jersey Globe? Any sort of juicy exclusives you want to break here, or anything that we should keep an eye out for, again, in the coming weeks here?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I'm really, really excited about is today, Joey Fox, who is just a monumental amount of talent as a young journalist. Today, he moved to Washington, D.C., and he is opening the New Jersey Globe's Washington bureau, something that Gannett and the Star Ledger couldn't do. And I'm really proud of the fact that we are stepping up, and we're going to go cover the New Jersey delegation in Congress. No public officials should be without the scrutiny of a reporter watching them. So, that's what I'm looking forward to this summer is Joey tackling Washington with the same fervor that he did Trenton. And now I'm reviewing resumes every day, and I'm looking for a new reporter to take his place in New Jersey. And I think I've been blessed to have a lot of really strong talent over the years, starting with Steve Kornacki and James Pindle and Dan Hirshhorn and Matt Friedman, really good people that I had early in the career. And I'm excited to be interviewing. And if you're watching Real Talk with Fernando Uribe and you are a budding journalist and you want to cover New Jersey politics, please send me your resume.
And that's Wildstein at njglobe.com, right?
David at njglobe.com.
David at njglobe.
Yes.
Folks, if you're looking to break into this business and make a difference and make an impact, folks, New Jersey Globe is where you want to be. Congratulations to Joey there. Send him my regards. I mean, I'll reach out to him also personally, but congratulations to him. And again, David, in a time when I hate to be hyperbolic, but it would seem that 2024 could arguably be one of the more consequential election years of our adult lives. Having someone like Joey Fox in Washington to hold those in power accountable, I think is immeasurably important. So congratulations to him. Congratulations to you and the New Jersey Globe. David, keep up the great work. I appreciate you being a fan of Real Talk via Jersey First. And we'll talk again this summer here on Jersey First TV.
Sounds good. Thanks, Fernando. Have a good night.
Take care. Stay safe. Have a good one. Bye. Folks, David Wildstein again, the esteemed editor of the New Jersey Globe, and certainly great stuff. And folks, if you don't check out the New Jersey Globe, I don't know what you're waiting for, because it is without a doubt the perennial news site in New Jersey. Breaking news all the time, scoops, exclusives that you won't see anywhere else. And I think David hit it on the head. While journalists, propagandists like David Cruz take off the entire summer, hey, journalism never sleeps here, and neither with the New Jersey Globe, and that's for sure. So great stuff there, as always, from David Wildstein. Folks, again, if you're just joining us right now, we're just hitting the top of the hour, 8 o'clock Eastern time here. We'll be wrapping up shortly. And folks, it's time for final thoughts. And one of the things that really, and I really don't want to spend too much time on these three, because, obviously, I have my own opinions about them, and some stuff I can't say on television. But what's really interesting is sort of the selective outrage, right? For example, with David Cruz with NJ Spotlight News talking about, oh, there's a lack of transparency with the state budget. Well, Dave, all due respect, and again, I know you're enjoying your summer vacation, sitting on your ass at home in Jersey City, while the rest of us journalists are working. That's something we do in the summer, right? There's no off season, as they say. But it's interesting to see David Cruz and NJ Spotlight News sort of publish stories about, for example, the rushed passage of the budget raises transparency concerns. David, bro, let me tell you something. It is rich of you, who spends nothing more of his time than virtue signaling on your show with some of the guests you have on during Reporters Roundtable or during Chatbox, when you could take all these months preceding the budget being signed to address the budget and the irresponsible spending that goes on in Jersey. See, I talk about it all the time. Okay, I'm the only journalist in New Jersey media, right? Opinion journalist that is constantly talking about kitchen table issues. Okay, that's talking about how responsible the spending is by the leadership in Trenton, right? The Emperor, Governor Murphy, right? Senate President Nick Scutari or Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin, right? And those that in Trenton that enable reckless spending, right? But here you are after the budget being signed, or even the day or two after, feigning this fake outrage or this manufactured outrage about, oh my God, how dare Trenton not be transparent? They're not, but you never call them out on it. You'd rather coddle again. And Dave, this is one of the things that I don't like about you. Okay, is that this sanctimonious, self-righteous, like scent in the air that you carry yourself with. I mean, you're not fooling anybody, and that's the problem. And again, now learning tonight after talking with David Wildstein that NJ Spotlight News and NJPBS gets taxpayer subsidies, right, given to your network. And what a surprise that you're not being overly critical of the budget. Of course not. You're getting money. Well, your network's getting money as you sit on your ass for the rest of the summer. And again, I when I look at someone like David Cruz, I just can't take you seriously, David. I'm sorry. Just like I don't take your New York Mets seriously, which I think nobody else does either, right? But the idea that now you want to feign outrage about, oh, there's a lack of transparency in Trenton. You should have been on this story for months. You should have been harassing the governor. You should have been harassing the Senate president. You should have been harassing the Assembly Speaker for months, talking about what's in the budget. Why are we spending more in New Jersey? But no, you'd rather virtue. And folks, again, this is not, me bloviating here. I mean, just check out some of his guests or the topics he covers on Reporters Roundtable, right? Whether it's, Trump derangement syndrome, which he shares with Tom Moran and Matt Friedman and Charles Stile and many in the liberal media establishment in New Jersey. They'd rather focus on that instead of kitchen table issues. And believe me, if anybody knows about the kitchen table, it's David Cruz. But he'd rather not focus on that. And I think that when I look at his story via NJ Spotlight News, I look at it on my phone, and here I am, and I'm like, swipe. Let's see what the horoscope is today, because that's the only productive thing I can look at on my phone when I see David and his manufactured outrage. And of course, folks, when we talk about fake outrage and useless journalism, of course, folks, we go from one useless journalist to another, Tommy Moran. Okay, and yes, David said it perfectly tonight. Okay, and a clock is right twice a day too. But for a guy like Tom Moran to be sanctimonious in his columns about transparency and this tax break and that tax break. Well, since Tom is taking, obviously Tom's taking a break from his fixation on the 45th president and his, I guess, fixation or dislike for Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Again, a guy who got COVID right, a guy who's governing well in a state like Florida where there's a massive migration to Florida. There's a lot of industry and commerce moving there, Tom. But, he won't talk about that. He'd rather virtue signal about, how dangerous the 45th president is or how democracy is in peril. So he'd rather focus on that than focus on, the budget and how recklessly we spend in New Jersey and taxes and everything else, how we're suffocating New Jerseyans, right? But again, Tom Moran is a guy that, along with David Cruz, finds the need to always be sanctimonious. Again, that that awful odor of self-righteousness that in which Tom Moran carries himself. Bitching and moaning about transparency. Bro, you should have been on the governor and the Senate president and the Assembly Speaker 4 months now. But again, as you're virtue signaling and talking about Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis or conservatives or saying, hey, I hope that Chris Christie sticks it to Donald Trump on the debate stage. What you should be focused on, Tommy, is the budget and why New Jersey continues to be unaffordable. Now, I get it. You probably never had a real job in your life, so you probably don't know the daily struggles of everyday working class people, and I get that. But it's rich of you, just like David Cruz, to be now feigning outrage about the state budget. And another guy, too, I think that kind of gets on my nerves, and a lot of people, too, right, is Matt Friedman. And it's interesting about Matt Friedman, again, another guy in New Jersey media with this sanctimonious, self-righteous, stench to him, which is interesting, again, through sources telling me that, okay, he's been talking about, obviously, in the last few days on the New Jersey playbook about transparency and this and that with the budget. Matt, it's interesting to me to hear that Politico puts you up in a hotel room in Newark, I guess, to be in New Jersey, right? Since you live like 95 miles away, probably, or 95 minutes away from New Jersey. And, how nice of you to leave the house. I'm sure your wife was ecstatic to have you out of the house. Obviously, I've seen some of your tweets there. I mean, my God, if there's ever anybody that exemplifies being insufferable, it's probably this guy. But the idea that you're, shacked up in a hotel room in Newark, obviously covering the budget or whatever else, and I don't know, you're too busy to maybe either head down to Trenton or you'd rather just stick around, I don't know, in a hotel room getting drunk or high. I mean, again, and that's not conjecture, that's not speculation. I mean, that's fact from what I'm hearing. So again, Matt, more feigned outrage, more sanctimonious self-righteousness from people like Matt Friedman and Tom Moran and David Cruz, when you've had months, Matt and Tom and David, to really crucify the governor, to crucify the Senate president and the Assembly Speaker, okay? To come around now and say, well, I'm just concerned about transparency and the budget. You should have been dissecting the budget 4 months now. And maybe it's not the sexiest thing in the world. And to David Wildstein's point tonight that maybe a lot of New Jerseyans aren't aware about what's going on in the budget. Well, the reality is the reason that many New Jerseyans don't know about what's going on in the budget is because either Politico, the New Jersey Playbook, the Star Ledger, NJ.com, NJ Spotlight News, NorthJersey.com via the Bergen Record, or other news outlets in New Jersey aren't doing your jobs. You're not dissecting this the way you should. The only journalists consistently doing, I guess, your work and trying to raise awareness about kitchen table issues and about our pocketbooks in this awful economy where inflation's still a problem, where gas prices are already over $3.50, where food prices are still suffocating us. But again, these are things you should be all talking about, okay? Not a lot of the virtue signaling that you do in your columns or in your commentary or on your Twitter feeds. And you all know you're guilty of this. Am I the only person in New Jersey that sees this? Of course not. But I'm the only one talking about real issues instead of virtue signaling. And that's, again, folks, we look at the New Jersey Playbook, we look at the Star Ledger, we look at, obviously the editorial board, we look at NJ Spotlight News, talking about, transparency and why the budget isn't made more accessible to the public. It's your job, Matthew. It's your job, Tom. It's your job, David. It's your job, Charles Style, and the rest of the Lollipop Guild and the liberal media establishment to be doing this, to be getting out there and making sure that we're holding people in Trenton accountable. But again, you'd rather virtue signal about whatever social justice cause or whatever other woke nonsense that you seem to be champions of, which we all know you do. Okay, you're not fooling anybody. Anyone that looks at your social media feeds can see that conclusively, and it's as clear as day. But again, folks, when we talk about the disservice to journalism in New Jersey, especially when during budget season, we should have a better understanding and awareness about what's going on with the budget. Hey, we're trying to rely on sort of the mainstream liberal media establishment. Yeah, good luck with that. It's not going to get you anywhere. Folks, before I call it a night here on the show, I do want to thank, first and foremost, the Russ Berry Foundation, obviously getting this in the mail this week. Recognition concerning the Making a Difference Award, and certainly recognition and appreciation of those making a difference in the state of New Jersey. And I just have to say real quick, which to me I think is gold, because it just bothers so many people. And of course, folks, one of the things that I really, really loved about this is, getting this in the mail. And again, maybe in case you can't read it there behind me, but the Russell Berry Foundation recognizes the contributions and selfless acts of this, quote, unsung hero, and awards this certificate of appreciation on this day, Friday, May the 5th, 2023. A special thank you, folks, to Dr. Cindy Jebb, the distinguished president of the Ramapo College of New Jersey, and of course, Angelica Berry, the president of the Russell Berry Foundation. Folks, if you want to get involved and volunteer with an outstanding organization, it is the Russell Berry Foundation. Congratulations to other winners this year, all serving our communities. Folks, whether it's in philanthropy, education, of course, right here in journalism, of course, I'm proud to be your hero. And I know that not many of you have many heroes, but I'm the hero you can always rely on in New Jersey media. And I'll continue working hard for you. And once again, a special thank you to the Russell Berry Foundation, once again, for this amazing honor. And again, folks, as you can see it, behind me there, able to put it in a frame, I'm running out of space in this house. So if you know any contractors, any people that can help me extend my living room, because I'm just running out of space. I feel like claustrophobic, right? Like all these new awards, and folks, more are coming, of course. And what's interesting is I'm running out of space here. It's like, what do I do? Like, I can't fit anywhere. Like, just, look behind me. Okay. I'm running out of space here, whether it's these awards or these awards. Like, I don't fit here. Thank God I'm not claustrophobic. Thank God that I don't suffer from that, because if that were the case, I think I'd be suffocating right now. I just need, folks, again, the show email, my phone number. If you know any good contractors, do me a favor, contact them, have them contact me and say, listen, Fernando Uribe needs an extension of his living room because I just do not fit with all of these awards. But in all seriousness, ladies and gentlemen, and if I can just be humble and serious for a minute, a special thank you once again to those who nominated me, and a special thank you to the Russell Berry Foundation for recognizing my contributions to education, philanthropy, and journalism. I'm deeply humbled. And you all know I'm not the most humble person around. So once again, thank you to the Russell Berry Foundation. Speaking about not having to be humble, folks, again, I can sort of say it. 11,000 plus views for the month of June. By the way, folks, I'm so happy the month of June is over. I think for those of you that know me and know my social media feed, believe me, I'm ecstatic the month of June is over. And of course, folks, all organic traffic, nothing boosted, nothing paid for, no ads, nothing. Everything is organic on this show. So as I like to say it all the time, when you have these little Mickey Mouse journalists, Mickey Mouse academics, Mickey Mouse activists attempting to do what I do and what other good people like Matt Rooney, for example, solid conservatives and intellectuals like ourselves, they're doing quality programs. Yeah, we don't need to boost anything because our traffic is what it is. So I want to thank all of you for continuing to make Real Talk with Fernando Uribe a success. Folks, once again, I cannot say enough, 11,000 views and counting. Folks, when we look at, greatness in New Jersey journalism, folks, you don't have to go very far because it's every Monday night live at 6 p.m. and it's regular time slot here on Jersey First TV. So thank you to everybody for making, once again, Real Talk with Fernando Uribe a success for the month of June. I'm sure we'll continue throughout the rest of 2023. So thank you to everybody. And of course, to all the haters, because I know you just love tuning in to Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. Keep it coming, folks. I love you because of the traffic. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank David Wildstein, the esteemed editor of the New Jersey Globe. Again, check out all the great stuff he publishes almost hourly at newjerseyglobe.com. Of course, folks, make sure you like us on Facebook. Of course, check us out on all our great social media feeds. Of course, make sure you like us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Check out Jersey First on YouTube. And of course, wherever you get your podcasts, download it and take Jersey First with you all summer long from any PC, Mac, smartphone, or tablet. Folks, I cannot say enough how proud I am to be on the dream team of New Jersey journalism. That's right, folks. It's Jersey First TV. Brand new episodes of The Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday with the incredible Elizabeth Nader. And, of course, brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap with AJ Malilo and Stephen Rombolo. Premiere every Thursday. And, of course, Real Talk emanates every Monday night in its regularly scheduled time here on the show at 6 p.m. Eastern Time here on Jersey First TV. Folks, hey, we're educating, we're entertaining, and we're, of course, enlightening. Nobody does it better, ladies and gentlemen, than Jersey First TV. Folks, again, thank you so much for tuning in on this special Wednesday night edition of Real Talk. Again, sharing is caring. Click the share button and share the replays all throughout the month. Of course, here in the month of July, great episodes and great guests coming up. Folks, this Monday, we'll be back in our regularly scheduled time slot of 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll have the president of the New Jersey LGBT Democrats on, Lauren Albrecht. A lot to talk about, obviously, with her and, of course, all my guests throughout the month of July. Folks, I can't say enough. Without you, my loyal viewing audience, this show would not be possible. So thank you so much for tuning in here. Of course, I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, Top 50 Latino via the Latino Spirit Online magazine. Of course, the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media. Without a doubt, the people's choice and the people's voice. And without a doubt, folks, the most handsome face that runs the place. It's Fernando Uribe right here, folks. Enjoy the rest of the week here. Please party responsibly. And always remember, if you can't be good, be bad, baby. We'll see you next week here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Have a great week, everybody.